Yeah. Thank you, Becca. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the third, I think this is the third annual What's New in QC summer presentation. And there's so much cool stuff I'm excited to show you about. I'm going to go very quickly because I got a lot I want to cover. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts and questions. We are really pushing, I think, we're really pushing the envelope on innovation. And our goal is to leverage video analytics, leverage AI, leverage technologies to lower the cost of data collection, get data turned around faster. And then really what we'll talk about today is these new data sets that we're able to provide at a fraction of the cost of what they used to cost. And that means engineers can just do better work for your clients and if you're a public agency for your people. So I'll share my screen here and get moving. Yeah, so I'm Steven. For those that don't know me, a lot of your names I recognize. So I think a lot of you I do know. But for those that don't know me, I'm a VP at Quality Counts. I work on a lot of our innovative efforts and try to figure out how do we be awesome for you guys and help you guys be great. Um, Yeah, I live in Florida. I went to UF. I went to Columbia for grad school. I taught in Korea. I worked on Wall Street, and then started a liquor brand and ran that for 10 years and sold it in 2020. You can probably find it wherever you're at your nearest liquor store. We're in 8,000 liquor stores nationwide now. It's called Boba Pops. Uh, Coolest thing about me, I got four sons. Also, I noticed right before this presentation that this image of me here, I've lost like 20 pounds since then. So I look more like this version of Steven. Yeah. Anyway, we're Quality Counts. We're a nationwide data collection firm. So we're all over for those that don't know, we've opened up some new offices this year or recently. We're now in Dallas. We opened up an office in LA. We're now in Boston and the whole Northeast, really. And a few years ago, we opened up an office in Georgia. And so, yeah, we're just continuing to spread. The backbone of really everything we're going to talk about today is our AI, our video analytics approach to data collection. We built our own AI, as most of you know, that processes all of our video hours. Um, Turning vehicles, pedestrians, and bikes into blue lines. We then turn this into data. And this presentation is about all the new things we're getting out of this timestamped trajectory data. We can get more than just 15-minute turning boom accounts. We can get a lot more. Yeah, so the broad buckets of things that we cover high level falls into three camps: the traditional, the large scale, and the new and innovative. For that traditional, it's all the normal stuff: tube counts, TMCs, radars, Q studies, gap studies, occupancy counts, parking studies, drone projects. The thing that's important to know is for all of these study types, we're able to leverage our innovations, our AI, our tools that we built to do these jobs more creatively, more flexibly, at lower costs, and help you and help your clients meet their budgets and get the job done at the same time. We're doing gap studies for a fraction of what we used to charge. And that's because we're leveraging tools to do 95% of the work. Parking studies, we're using cameras to get the in-outs, leveraging our AI to get the in-outs. And then we're doing an occupancy count before and after the period. We have the in-out data in between, and we've got now a high quality parking study with granular data done with not a whole lot of effort on our part. And that means we can do the work for a reasonable cost. Okay, the large scale projects, the one I want to touch on are these ADA ramp and sidewalk surveys because these are all the rage right now. We're doing a bunch of these, and these projects are, cities are facing pressure from DOJ. The DOJ is cracking down, the FHWA is cracking down, and they're pushing agencies to get their sidewalks in compliance, their curb ramps in compliance with, the standards, the MUTCD standards and the requirements, these PROW and PROAG requirements. Those are really the requirements that matter here. And for these projects, we've got three pieces to getting these projects done. And a lot of people don't know how these work, so I'll quickly explain it. The first step is there are these tech partners, these tech companies, and this is not us in this case. They've got technology to collect sidewalk inventory data, iPads to collect curb ramp data. and the software behind it. And so then that's the technology piece. We're the middle piece. We're the actual doing the manual work, walking along all the sidewalks, scanning all the curb ramps, driving down the right of ways. And then the third part is all this data and it comes out of the software. And then there are engineering firms that put together the ADA transition plans, these construction management prioritization plans. And that's the three-step process. But we do the manual parts. We also get brought in because Jay McComb, who's on this call, is our resident expert on these technologies and on the equipment side. And so he gets brought in to just give advice on what technologies even make sense because a lot of agencies don't know, and we have a lot of experience in that regard. We're going to spend the majority of this talk, though, on near miss and then on data collection aided by computer vision. There's a lot of really cool things we're getting out of our data that we're able to include for a small additional fee or no additional fee on top of the Turning Boom account. And that means in the process of getting a Turning Boom account, we're able to just give you more. So you can do more. We'll also touch on DataPoint for those that don't know. We have a data management platform that manages traffic data for our clients, and we don't charge for it. So if you're curious, let us know. We'd love to make one for you, but I'll touch on that too. Okay, so when we're collecting data, I'm not going to go through the whole process because just I think you all know how we collect data. But when we collect data, we're setting up cameras, we're processing through our AI. We're quality controlling it, and then we're delivering the data, delivering PDFs and Excels, custom Excels, access to videos, and then we deliver the data in DataPoint. And so DataPoint is our data management platform that manages traffic data. This is for one firm in the Carolinas, and there's literally tens of thousands of locations here. They're all overlapped, so it doesn't look that way. But anyway, if you zoomed in, you'd see. So this data management platform stores the traffic data from the count equipment that we use. So it stores the Turning Boom accounts and the volume, class, and speed data. And so it becomes, though, your repository for all your traffic data, not just the data we're collecting. And that's because the platform reads the raw files from the count equipment, from the softwares, the standard equipment that your other vendors are using, or if you're collecting data in-house, whatever tools you're using to get that data, DataPoint is a platform we built that can read that data. So then over time, it just becomes your data repository of all your data. Now I'm talking short-term duration counts. So this is not big data. This is Turning Boom accounts, volume, class, and speed data, bike pet data, etc. Now agencies across the country use DataPoint. If you think they'd be interested, please introduce us. We'd love to build one for them. But it's just a way of managing your data instead of using PDFs and Excels and folders on your computer. The tool also has HCM integration, so it does a lot of cool things in terms of getting the insights out of the data you've already collected. Okay, now we're going to get to the core of the innovations that are, video analytics based. And so the backbone of all of them is this video analytics approach to data collection. The list of the innovations that we'll talk about today are first, longer duration Turning Boom accounts. Our approach to collecting Turning Boom accounts is just a more efficient approach than what everybody else is doing, because everybody else has to take their video and send it to a third-party company to be processed. We process it all internally with our own tools. So that means when we do a 24-hour Turning Boom account or a 12-hour or a 6-hour, it takes us about the same amount of time, and we can pass on the majority of those efficiencies to you guys. So we're really cost effective when you want longer duration counts. There's a lot of agencies that want more data to do a better job, to understand the off peaks, to understand nighttime. We make it easy because it's a small additional fee, if any. Okay, next, intersection speed studies and delay. We'll touch on that. I've got a slide for it. We'll touch on QC reels, SPaT estimates. We'll touch on capacity planning. We'll touch on, and then warrant and gap data. We'll touch on, and then we'll get to near miss. So yeah, we've got a lot to cover. So first, intersection speed studies. Intersection speed data has always been tough to get. Because we get speed data from tubes, and you can't put tubes at an intersection. And so we, in the 1950s and 60s, learned how to live without it, because you can't do tubes, and if you have someone out there with a radar gun, it's just too expensive. So we learned how to live without it. We built our workflows to live without it. But AI is changing that, and now for us, it's a small add-on fee to the Turning Boom account to get the speed data. And the speed data, what I mean by that is we get the speeds of the through movements, and it's every vehicle. So you can see the vehicles impeded by the light. You can see basically the free-flowing 85th and the cluster of free-flowing vehicles relative to the speed limit, relative to your 10-mile-an-hour pace speeds. And these orange dots here show the super speeders. So you can get a sense of the variance of your speeding. You can get this kind of speed data from big data, but it's a sample of the data. This is another way to do it that gives you every vehicle. And it gets wrapped in with counts. So it can be simpler than trying to work with a big data company if you don't have that set up. Also included in our speed studies, we include the delay of every vehicle and the delay summed up through the period. So the way we do that, we take the speed of every vehicle and we compare it to the free-flowing 85th. That gives us a number of seconds of delay. We take the delta and MPH between the free flowing and the actual and multiply it by the length of the intersection. We use 650 feet. That gives us seconds of delay per vehicle. And then we have it in a simple chart that sums up by hour. So you can see at 10 a.m., we had 23 minutes of delay. And then the red line here is cumulative throughout the day. So this is a nice way to do before and after studies if you're making timing changes and you want to show that we've increased speed, but we haven't affected congestion. Yes, this is a nice way to understand along corridors where you have problems, which hours of the day, and which locations are worse. And we make it simple because it's just wrapped in with the data collection that you maybe already need. Okay, next, QC reels. QC reels are summary reels of any movement class or speeds. This is a benefit of our AI tool that we've built. So let's say you're doing a small roundabout, 8-hour turning boom account with us. And let's say you look at the turning boom account data, you open up the Excel and you see there's a lot of large vehicles. There's a lot of semi-trailers moving through this small roundabout. And you may wonder, well, how are they navigating? Are they up on the truck aprons? Are they in the dirt? Well, you can let us know that you're curious to see all the semi-trailers moving through the roundabout, and we can make you a reel. We don't charge for it. You can let us know before when you're ordering the study. You can let us know when you're neck deep in the study and you have the thought that I want to see all the semi-trailers moving through the roundabout. And we'll send you the northbound semi-trailers moving through the roundabout or every PED crossing the south leg at night because maybe the agency requested you to look into that. Or maybe you want to see all the high-speed southbound motorcycles because the citizen complained. We can give you highlight reels of basically anything. Here's an example of one we did in Florida. And the situation was there was tire marks up and down this bike infrastructure. And the engineering firm and FDOT was the agency. They didn't know why. They had a few theories. The theories were first, maybe it's the cars coming out of this driveway here. The second theory was the U-turning cars, which turned out to be the culprit. And then the third theory was cars coming down here. Maybe they think this is a turn lane and they get over in the turn lane and they're running over the bike infrastructure. Well, the U-turn problem, the U-turns were the problem. And when we saw the videos, we noticed another problem, and that's these larger vehicles, classes 5 through 13, they're not making U-turns and driving over the infrastructure. Instead, they're doing three-point turns in the middle of the roadway. Now, this tool, QC Reels, it allows an engineer to just do better work because you're connected to the visual medium of what's actually going on out there. And then you're able to better brainstorm and understand problems. And then you're able to better brainstorm solutions to those problems and then effectively communicate the problems and solutions to the agencies, to your bosses and coworkers, and ultimately to the public. Okay, that's QC Reels. Next. SPaT summary data. So we now include SPaT summary data with every turning boom account upon request. So if you do turning boom accounts with us and you'd love to see this, let us know. We don't charge for this. This is an automatic report that comes out of our system, and it's basically just analyzing the timestamp trajectory data through the intersection. We're not AIing the signal head. It's algorithms on top of our trajectory data and the timestamped movement data. And then we quality control it before sending it. But what you get is first the SPaT estimate. We provide one per peak period. And then we provide these flow distribution plots, which do a few things. One, what you're looking at here is the hourly flow rate. And then on this bottom axis, the y-axis, you're seeing our 60 seconds of the cycle length. And so up here, this is when all the cars are going through. And then about here, our queues have kind of cleared. We have some more cars coming, and then that dissipates. This allows you to effectively communicate to whomever unique situations at signals, unique signal timing situations. This also lets you flag potential problems. So first, you'll be able to see if your traffic's front loaded, in which case you've got maybe a lot of unused green time at the end, or if your traffic's backloaded, which would mean this orange and blue line maybe is coming up at the end. Well, that means you've got an environment conducive to red light running. And so, yeah, this is SPaT summary data. You can also ballpark by understanding these hourly flow rates and the number of lanes in your through approaches. You can get an understanding of when the queues are dissipating and how long until the queues are dissipating, and ultimately get a window into your queue information with virtually no extra money because it's wrapped in with the counts. And that's what we're really trying to do, is bring these data sets that have historically been valuable but too expensive to use on a routine basis, like near miss, like queue data, like SPaT data, like all sorts of data types, and make them find a way to get people like you guys, engineers, 95% towards where you want to go for 1% of the cost, so that you can justify scaling it into all your projects and just doing better work for your clients. Okay, next, capacity planning reports. I was hoping to announce today that these are officially live, but I think we're maybe a week or two away yet, but these are coming. So what this report is we're taking the turning movement count data, we're taking the roadway geometry data, and we're connecting it with the HCM high-level, planning-level analysis formulas. And so you get two charts, and I'll walk through each of these in their own slide. First, we provide a VC by hour. This pairs especially well if you're doing longer counts, and we make that cost effective. The VC by hour chart shows you not just the volume to capacity in the peak hours, but across the day. There's a lot of agencies that are a little like they're looking for all new ways of thinking about how to handle capacity than just widening the road every time, either because it affects the character or the charm of the community you're building, or it's just too expensive. And so this chart is a way to kind of understand the VC by hour throughout the day. And so we include not just when you're over capacity, but also when you're under capacity. And we include a percentage of what percent of hours are you in that sweet spot, where you're not over capacity, not under capacity. You don't want to be over capacity, that's obvious, but you also don't want to be under capacity. And that's because then you've got cars going faster, which is a safety problem. Or you maybe have over-engineered the intersection, which means you spent a lot of money maybe you didn't need to. That could have been better spent elsewhere. So that's thing number one this chart does. The other thing it does is it shows you alternate scenarios. So the blue line here, this is the existing conditions. This is a signal at this intersection. Well, the red line, the green line, and the yellow line show alternatives. What if instead, based upon these volumes, if we had an R-cut? What if we had an MUT? What if we had a roundabout? So this lets you get a high-level sense of alternate scenarios before you spend a whole lot of time in Synchro or whatever other tools you're using. Okay, next, we provide this chart. It's the VC ratio summary by hour and by movement. This is just another way, you've got the data. This is just another way to help that we can help you communicate and understand the data and communicate to your clients what's going on. Okay, last one, auto screening for warrant and gap analysis. When you're doing a warrant and gap study and you need counts, let us know. And we will provide with you charts that help you understand whether or not this data meets the warrants at a high level. We're basically connecting the turning movement count data, the roadway geometry data, the speed data with all of the MUTCD thresholds. And to give you a quick sense of if any of these are meeting the thresholds or not. For gap analysis, basically, we've got the timestamp data of every vehicle moving through the intersection, so we can automatically provide you with some really interesting, helpful, useful data about the gaps, the mean headway, the median headway for each approach or both. We can provide you the one-stage gaps, the two-stage gaps, the minor demand, the major volumes, just more data out of the standard turning movement count process you're used to. We want to give you more data and more info to do better work. And yeah, okay. Now we're going to dive into near miss. Near miss has really been QC's biggest innovation over the last few years, and I think one of the ones that's really put us on the map as a innovative company. And so I want to tell you what's new though, because it's evolving quickly. We did a lot of near miss data collection in 2025. We did more than 20,000 locations across the country. Um, we're going to vastly exceed that this year. And so broadly, there have been two major issues with near miss historically. One of them is it's always been cost prohibitive. Two, like what do you do with the data? And the way we're solving those is first, we largely wrap in near miss data collection with the counts. And so then it's a minimal additional fee on top of the turning movement counts. The second one is what do you do with this data? It's kind of historically been a little needle in a haystack to find the insights in the data. And that's because hold on, let me let this person in. And that's because it's a lot of data to look through, and there haven't been thresholds or metrics with which to compare the data against. Well, because we did 10,000 locations 2 years ago and 20,000 locations last year, we are able to compare data from a location, the near miss data, to our full database and put into context what number of conflicts were to be expected. And that's really changing the usefulness of near miss data. And so I'm going to go through a couple things. First, I'm going to cover some near misconceptions. And these are just all things that we've learned. These are QC's opinions, our opinions. We have engineers on staff, but broadly, we're a company of non-engineers. We're just practitioners and we're collecting this data and doing a lot of near miss studies. So this is sort of highlights of what we've learned. One, misconception number one, near miss is useful for all safety studies. No. In our experience, near miss data is best for left turn safety and bike bed safety. If you've got a situation where a car's hydroplaning because you've got a drainage issue, we're not going to catch that. There's a lot of safety issues that are best for crash data or hard braking data to get. Near miss is best for left turn, permitted lefts safety, and then bike bed safety. Misconception number two, if it didn't feel dangerous, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people when they're first looking at near miss reports, they watch the clips and they go, well, that one didn't matter, I don't think. And that one didn't look dangerous, I don't think. And that one did look dangerous. Near miss data is not about like this subjective, is it dangerous? It's more about this objective metric of exposure of two objects coming close to each other. And had somebody made a mistake, then it becomes a dangerous situation. And so conflict data is not about dramatic almost crashes. It's more akin to tracking blood pressure than tracking heart attacks. Number three, the more near miss data, the better. In our experience, no. We do a lot of near miss studies that are a week long, 2 weeks long, 3 weeks long. In our experience, 1 or 2 days is typically enough. When you get more days, it rarely changes the conclusions you had after 1 or 2 days. Yeah, and it becomes just a lot more data to work with. And then it takes us longer to turn around the data if we're doing weeks of data collection. So it slows down the turning movement count, not only, and it also increases the cost. So 1 or 2 days is typically enough. We'll tell you when we think more days is needed. Misconception number four, near miss analysis is about analyzing the number of seconds. Well, that near miss was 1.2 seconds. That one was 2.1 seconds. So that first one was worse. That's not what the analysis is really about. It's really three things. It's one, comparing the observed conflicts to what was expected. And we provide what was expected. Two, it's about the speed of the vehicles involved. And three, it's about engineering judgment when you're watching the clips of that particular conflict type. And you're making judgments of what's the cause of this and is this, what should we do? Misconception number five, intended to be used in place of crash data. No, it's not in replace the crash data. In our experience, both are useful in different ways and they pair well together. There are a lot of projects that I've seen where crash data will identify an issue that the near miss data missed. and vice versa. Near miss data will catch something crash data missed. They pair well together. They have different pros and cons. Okay, we're going to go through two projects here, two sample projects. The first one is a project we did for DelDOT last year. And so this project, it was 8 locations across across Delaware. A couple in the north, one in the center, 4 in the south. One of these locations was Hudson Road and DE1. This was a highway that had this two-way stop controlled movements, cars coming and shooting the gap across or making these dangerous left turns. And there was a history of crashes here. Back to 2017, there were newspaper articles about Hudson Road and DE1. Woman seriously injured, Route 1, Hudson Road. Changes needed at Route 1, Hudson Road. So the public was on it. DelDOT was feeling pressure. They were not excited about signalizing the intersection because they did not want to affect the flow of the throughs on Coastal Highway. They were not excited about, doing a J turn or a U or an R cut because those aren't common in Delaware. So they were concerned how people would react. And so then last year there was a serious crash at Route 1 Hudson Road. 3 people were helicoptered out. And 2 weeks later, we were out there filming. DelDOT decided, let's try near miss. Let's try something here. And so we did near miss. This is the data. It's a screenshot out of our reports. Here's Hudson Road and Steamboat Landing /DE1. The data shows the total conflicts broken out by 3 different time thresholds. These are all 3 seconds or less. And then broken out by mode type, vehicle to vehicle, ped to vehicle, bike to vehicle. Then we provide video compilations. So what this is we quality control every near miss report. We watch the clips. Anything that is a false positive gets removed. Anything wild or unique gets flagged and goes into a highlight reel. And that's what this is. We also have reels if you just want to watch all the near misses. But the point of the highlight reel is to help you know that you haven't missed anything, that you've seen the extreme stuff if you're not going to watch every single clip. The summary diagrams help you make sense of the data, compares to national averages, etc. The trajectories show you the bike ped movements, the pathways across the screen, and then the speeds vital for near miss analysis. Okay, so Hudson Road Steamboat Landing, DE1, the way you would analyze this is you'd first look at, we got a lot of conflicts in a 24-hour period. That's a lot of conflicts. What type of conflicts do we have is your first question. These are all vehicle to vehicle. We have no ped and bike conflicts. The next question you would ask is, what type of conflicts are these? And how do they compare to what's to be expected? And then what are the speeds of those throughs? Those are the big questions. And so we have a diagram for that. The diagram shows in the black boxes the left turn conflicts from the 4 approaches. And so up here, we've got our southbound lefts. We have 8 conflicts. There were 70 total lefts, so that's an 11% conflict rate. But the more important metric is how does this compare to what's to be expected? 8.6 are to be expected given our 30,000 location database, where we're looking at locations that have the same stop control, the same number of crossing lanes, and then roughly the same number of left turn volumes and through volumes. And so what's 8 mean? Well, it's less than 8.6. We're probably fine here. Eastbound lefts, 9 compares to 21. We're probably fine. 21 compares to 21. We're probably fine. The northbound lefts, 231 compares to 14. We're in the 100th percentile. So this is a major red flag. The other major red flag at this location is the speeds of these through volumes. They're going 64.2 miles an hour. Anytime I've ever seen a location with these 2 flags, we have a major problem. This location is no different. Now we're looking at the highlight reels for this location. You're seeing, we set up 2 cameras when we do near miss, at least 2 cameras. You're seeing northbound lefts turning left from both camera angles. These are all the same movement. But this is what a problem area looks like when you're dealing with 24 hours of data. It looks like cars repeatedly shooting tight gaps with fast-moving cars coming at them. And if this is happening hundreds of times a day on a random day, then it's happening thousands upon thousands of times a month. And this is where you're going to have high exposure to dangerous crashes. Okay, so we showed this to DelDOT, and they immediately said, okay, let's make a change. They didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to signalize it, but so they thought, let's do a quick build and let's prohibit the lefts. And so they put in signs directing cars to turn right. They've got striping to channelize cars to go right. They've got delineators in the center of this median. And this here, these are the northbound lefts. This is the movement that they want to go here. So anyway, this was done right away, and then immediately after, people started complaining that people were still turning left. And then there was a crash on this corridor at another location where they essentially did the same thing. And so then DelDOT said, let's do an after study and investigate. So we did an after study. This time we studied for 5 days because we're modeling prohibited left. So how often are cars turning left when they shouldn't? Okay, maybe 1 or 2 days isn't enough. We did 5 to be sure that we had enough data. In the 5-day period, we had 73 conflicts. That compares to 300 in just one day during the before period. So we had a major reduction in conflicts. We had a 97% reduction in northbound lefts. So major improvement. But why are there any conflicts with northbound lefts if they're prohibited? Well, here's what's happening. Cars are just still going left all day, every day. Sometimes on the left side of the delineators, sometimes on the right side. They're crossing anyway, to the tune of 131 times per day, a car goes left. Of those 131, 8 are involved in a conflict. Now, these conflicts are arguably worse when they do occur. And here's why. Look at this car trying to turn left. Well, what happens if someone needs to turn left the other way? Well, what happened here is this car that needs to turn left, they go around the delineators to the other side. Now they're in the other side's turn lane. Or another issue is because you've got these delineators in the middle of the roadway, cars have to make more of a right angle turn to go around the delineators and they're entering the roadway at slower speeds. Or they're having to speed up to make up for the fact that they're entering at a poor angle. So we showed this after study. We did this in November. So the before was done in, July. The after was done in November. We showed this to Delaware, and we showed them the results. The results were we had a major reduction in conflicts, 97% reduction in northbound lefts. The percentile of this location went from being the 100th percentile in the country to the 17th. But percentile is not the only thing that matters. Speed is crucial. We still have high speed conflicts, A. B, engineering judgment would tell you these are arguably, there's something unique about these conflicts. And then 3, we still have 131 vehicles per day making this prohibited left or an impossible movement. So DelDOT said, okay, the quick build didn't work. And so they set in motion putting in a concrete barrier at this median. They started in December. This went live in March. This is what the intersection looks like now. Immediately, they noticed there were some tire marks on the bike and on this concrete barrier. They made the concrete barrier thin because they want to give a way for emergency vehicles to be able to still get through. But there's a lot of tire marks on here, and so DelDOT was curious, do we still have a problem? So they wanted us to do an after study. And so we did that, and I'll report there were 0 conflicts in the after period, but there were still cars going left. And so what you're going to see here, we filmed for 3 days, and I'm going to play a video of cars turning left at this. This is the same intersection. Yeah, this was in May. Cars are still going left, and this video is going to play at 3 times speed because some of these cars take so long to go left based upon the particular circumstances they find themselves in. So, yeah. Car's still going off road. You got a trailer still making that dangerous left. This person is partially in the turn lane, probably rethinking their decision here. And here's the last one. Everybody just finds a different way to turn left. Yeah, so a few lessons here. People will turn left. And so the goal isn't to eliminate every possible infraction. Um, the goal is to find that responsible middle ground. In July, there were 1,600 cars going left when it was allowed. There were 231 conflicts. They prohibited the lefts. The northbound lefts fell to 131 per day. The conflicts fell to 8.2. And then in the after, the northbound left movements fell to 6 per day and the conflicts fell to 0. Okay, next project. Oh, actually, I want to say something about before and afters because this is, I think, one of the coolest things going on in near miss is before and after studies. These studies, we're doing a lot of these, and they're so cool because we're agencies and engineers are increasing the rate at which they're learning about what works and what doesn't work. There's a lot of agencies that are either they're cash constrained, so they can't do the expensive thing. So they settle for a quick build or something smaller, or they don't have the political will to because they don't want to slow down the cars. So they're in that sort of standard quagmire of balancing safety and congestion and public interests and complaints. Doing these before and after studies can help an agency learn what does work and what doesn't work. And if something doesn't work, okay, let's do less of that. And then if it does work, okay, let's do more of that and let's do it a little more confidently. And then we've got through this before and after approach, video clips to help agencies tell those stories and galvanize support about why we're not doing that and why we are doing this. Before and after studies in general are not something that our industry is set up for. We do the traffic and planning, we do the design, we do the construction, we move on, and we have whole separate teams and contracts to do safety analysis years later based upon historic crash data. Tying in after studies into these projects is really simple and low cost. And so we're always encouraging people to do so. And if you can't, because procurement is really hard sometimes to do an after study 6 months later, like we get that, we are down to meet you in the middle and do a pro bono project. If you'll do the pro bono analysis of the before and after data, we'll do the pro bono data collection. If you'll set up that meeting with the agency so we can show them to say, listen, we thought this was important, so we did it before and after anyway, to show that what we had envisioned was actually going to work. This is the results. They will love you for it, I promise. Even if you're not getting paid today, it'll pay dividends long run, and we're down to just get in that boat with you. Okay. Other project, we did a project for THEA, Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority. This is a bike ped one. And this will be the last, kind of thing here during this presentation. So with THEA, we did 100 or so bike ped counts throughout Tampa. Now, this expressway kind of bifurcates the downtown in a way that a lot of expressways do. We've got this football field kind of separating two built out areas. And so, yeah, the expressway, the engineers, they're trying to make underneath the expressway more friendly with dog parks. They're trying to make the on-off ramps more ped friendly. Yeah, and so we did near miss all along this project, and I'm going to kind of show you some of these locations here. So we did 24-hour studies. First, I'll just show you a highlight reel. Near miss data is really good, like I said, for permitted left turns. Safety like these. This project, though, was really about bike peds. It was about what happens when cars turn left and they're stuck in the road with oncoming throughs coming at them potentially because they didn't see the pedestrian until the last second, like that last car and like this truck. Or what happens when the cars maybe don't see the pedestrians until the very last second. Now you're just seeing sampling of clips from across this whole project. Here's some bike conflicts. Bike conflicts are always interesting because of the the unpredictability of bike pathways. Bikes also tend to move through downtowns with a little brazenness, like I'm kind of on a motorcycle, but I don't have to follow the rules. And then here we have the PED conflicts with through vehicles. Now, these are the ones that, if you've got a systemic problem, are most concerning because the crash data typically doesn't show it quickly until someone's been hit or killed. Um, but these are most concerning because this is when cars are moving really fast. This guy's stuck in the middle of the road. And then this person got hit. So look away if you're squeamish. We see somebody hit literally every 3 weeks. A pedestrian, a cyclist, a scooter rider. We see it all the time. And every single time we watch to see what happened. What, namely, was a police officer called? And in 90 to 95% of the crashes we've seen, there was no cop called. Meaning, if you ever see a bike ped crash report and it's a bunch of dots along a corridor, multiply that number by at least 10, maybe 20 or 25, and that's the actual number. And what you're getting is typically just the most severe ones, because those are, if someone gets seriously injured, a cop will get called. But if the person's able to walk away, they typically do. And yeah, so this person was fine. This female, she got up, she walked away. These video clips also humanize the decision making by the bike or ped. So this scooter rider was at fault. The cars have the green here. The throughs have the green. But what you can't see is, but you can see it from the other camera, is this car is waving her on. So not only is this car stopping at the green, which is sort of a passive way of saying go ahead, but she's also waving her on, giving her another indication of like, oh, it's safe for me to go. But there's a sightline issue between this female and the car. And so, yeah, she's hit. I'll save you from having to, well, I wanted to, it didn't update fast enough. Okay, the big thing I want to communicate about bike ped near miss is the workflow is really getting ironed out. The cool thing about crash data is you can use crash data to identify where you have problems, and you can build a high injury network, and you can double click in from there at areas where there are a lot of crashes, and that has just passively filtered out the 95% of intersections in a city that had no crashes. That's efficient. Near miss data needs that. You don't want just endless near miss data to try to find their insights in here somewhere, but where are they? And so the workflow is getting smooth, and that workflow is you use our comparison metrics to identify problematic intersections. Then you double click into those intersections to identify the legs at those intersections that were problematic, and then at a leg that's problematic, you look at the vehicular movements at those legs that are conflicting with the pedestrians or the cyclists, particularly pedestrians. Okay, so the way that works, these are basically the 8 worst or 7 worst locations that we did across this study. The data we provide is our observed conflicts versus the expected conflicts. The expected conflicts is how many conflicts are to be expected given the PED volumes. And then you get a ratio observed to expected. If you're even, okay, then you have the number of conflicts you expect given the volumes. If you're over, well, that delta is for the engineer to try to make sense of. Why are we over? Is it pedestrians jaywalking? Is it vehicles running red lights? Is it poor lighting? Is it sightline issues? What is it? And then we provide the absolute percentile. So this is in the same way that crash data has absolute number of crashes. 50 crashes a year is a lot. And then it has crash rates, and they're 2 different metrics. The same thing with near miss. Absolute percentile says 93 conflicts. Is that a lot? It's in the 89th percentile. I don't care how many people crossed. It's in the 89th percentile, that's high. And then the O over E shows, okay, well, considering PED volumes, is it high? And they pair well together. And then the third metric is the speeds. And so these 3 metrics are the flags you use to identify, does a location have, does it check 3 flags, 2, 1, or 0? Okay, now the way this analysis would go from here, you would look at maybe one location, like Meridian and Channelside, which was high in all 3 categories, 1.270 over E, 96th percentile nationally. And the speeds, 26 miles an hour isn't super high, but it's high enough that those are some serious crashes, and it's worth looking into further. Okay, so when we look in further, here's Meridian Channel side. We're in downtown Tampa. We have the Lightning playing here. We have Sparkman Wharf. We've got cruise ships coming in and out. We've got a busy intersection. We set up 2 cameras, as is the standard. And now we see the conflict data broken out by leg. North, south, east, west. We're seeing the number of conflicts versus what was expected. We're getting our O over E. We're seeing our speeds, our average speeds at these crosswalks. This is leveraging 20,000 locations of data where we've got good ped bike data. And we're basically just looking at stop control and ped volumes. Okay, diving into all 4 of these approaches because they're all kind of high, so they all deserve a deeper look. First, we can just look at our ped pathways, and we provide this for our near miss reports, all of them. But if you want this for any Turning Boom account, let us know. It's just a screenshot that we take out of our software. We can add it to any email. So it's a pretty simple process for us to provide this. But this is the ped paths, and what you use this for is to get a sense of ped compliance. And in this case, while we have some squiggles that are outside the line, in general, everyone's pretty compliant here. Next, we look at, when we go deeper into each leg, what we want to see is the vehicular movements at those legs that are conflicting with pedestrians. And so we're going a little deep in the weeds here if you don't do a lot of ped safety work. So my apologies, but I think you'll get the vision even if you're kind of new to this. So the south leg, we've got 7 possible vehicles that could conflict with a pedestrian on the south leg. The left car's entering, the left car's exiting. The right car's entering, the right car's exiting. The through's entering, the through's exiting, and the U-turns. And the difference between an entering and an exiting is any car will cross 2 crosswalks as it goes through an intersection. It'll cross one as it's entering the box, and then it'll cross another as it leaves the box. And there are different safety concerns for each. So here's the data at Meridian Channel side. And the things that jump out are the left turns out and the right turns out. And if you've got a left turn out problem, what you would consider is protecting the lefts. And if you've got a right turn out problem, what you would consider is an LPI, a no turn on red, maybe like tightening the turn radius so it's a little sharper, so those cars have to slow down. And then we also have through issues here, through conflict issues. And when you're dealing with through conflict issues, the workflow is you let us know that you'd like to see a reel of the through-in conflicts at the south leg. And we use QC reels. And then we would give you a reel of these 10 clips. And we don't charge for this. This is just a part of our process. And then you would watch those 10 clips and you'd make 2 judgments. One, is there a problem? Jaywalking, bad lighting, red light running, what is it? Is there a problem? And then 2, is that problem worth doing something about? Is it severe enough? Is the juice worth the squeeze to spend money and try to fix it? And if so, well, then you've got data and you've got videos to help communicate that story to your colleagues, to the agency, and to the public. Guys, that's everything. Thank you for joining me. I'd love to hear questions and any thoughts you guys have.
So the first question is, are there any right turn discounts included with your warrant screening?
I gotta better understand this question. Right turn discounts for the warrant screening. I'm not sure. Let's see who asked that. April, let me email you and get more info because yeah. And Jay, you're welcome for the shout out. But yeah, sorry, April, I don't know enough. I need more info. But I'll tell you, this warrant screening and gap screening, like it's I think really powerful, really cool. And if you got like, I want to hear exactly what your use case is because I bet we can help and make something happen. Okay, let's see with your warrant screening. Yeah, okay. Noe or no says, do you sell traffic counting equipment? No, we don't. Happy to point you in the right direction. From our experience, we've got a little bit of everything, and for some things, we've got a lot of it. But we'd be happy to talk you through the options and pros and cons from my perspective, if that would be helpful, Noe. Althea. Hey, Althea, were there signs added as well as the curbs? You're talking for Del Dot, I presume, Althea, um, as well as the curbs. Yes, there already were signs. There were signs before, and then I think there were signs if you're northbound left, there's a sign that says, don't turn left, but I'm not sure. It may only be for the primary movements making lefts. Uh, Good question though. Okay, let's see. I was thinking the same thing, Althea. All right, and yeah, let me get an answer to that. So the next time I'm asked, I know. Okay, let's see. Sure, the MUTCD includes a section about including right turn discounts. Oh, then yeah, I think we do. But let me reach out to you still, April, and give you a better answer. Okay, Aaron Van Aken, if we have existing 24-hour counts, can the near miss ped path analysis be provided if the footage was provided? Yes, it can be. So let us know, Aaron, what locations, and we can provide the ped paths. That's a very easy one. To reprocess for near miss, we can do that. We would typically charge for it. So depending on your use case, though, I'd love to just get it in your hands so you can see it. But yeah, it's normally a little more expensive, so it's normally an add-on fee. But we've already got the video. It would be easy to reprocess. There are the first 9 steps for us doing a baller near miss report is just doing a high quality turning movement count. But then there is extra steps. The extra steps is the quality control, reviewing every clip. And so, yeah. All right. Now, Jeff says, meaning if there is a dedicated right turn lane. Yes, I believe so, Jeff. Yeah, you guys are asking questions that I wish I was better equipped to answer. So let me get better equipped next time I have this conversation about right turn lanes and warrants. Um, yeah, anybody else have any questions? Okay, Aaron says we have our own equipment and process the data ourselves. But the near miss and ped path is appealing for certain locations. Curious if this was something that can be added for just these services. Yeah, let's talk about it, Aaron. We don't we do this on occasion, but we're open to setting up a process where you can set up your camera, send us your video, we can process and deliver all the data we collect. What we would need for near miss though is we would want to make sure you're setting up the same way we are because we've got 30 something thousand locations where all the locations were done the same way. 2 cameras on the right corners, not just any corner, but certain corners, and that it's a sufficient video quality. But it's totally feasible, and so happy to talk you through that. So I'll reach out to you, Aaron, and we can chat about that. All right, Corey, do your near miss studies record turning vehicle speeds? No, they don't. We don't do turning vehicle speeds. It's just through movements. Yeah. The process of getting turning movements or getting the turn speeds is more expensive. And yeah, and so we don't do that at this point. Did you say that data point takes in live data? A question from April. It does not take in live data. We have a dev team. April, you work with Oregon DOT, I believe, so we can, if you've got a vision for something that would be useful, we're happy to talk that through. Because anything's possible, and you got a dev team, and you got a creative bunch. Yeah, thanks for the question, though. All right, anybody else with any questions or want any I'd love to hear if anything's, what's resonating and what would be yeah, what you're seeing here that might be helpful. And would love to dive in further on any of this, except right turn warrants, anything but that. Well, great, guys. Well, appreciate you all coming. Follow up if you have any questions or want to chat offline, and really appreciate you all coming. Thanks, guys. You're welcome, Dave. Thanks, guys. See ya.